everybody, and welcome. It is Fantasy Premier time again. It's been a while, actually, since we've been on the boil talking about what's going on, and it brought a real hectic double game week to bring us out of retirement. But the truth of the matter is, life's been crazy, not least of all in the Premier League.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely insane. Welcome, everyone. Hi, it's good to have you back. Hi, Gabe and Matthew.
Hello.
Definitely been insane in Fantasy
Yeah.
Premier League. A lot of double game weeks, but some of the game weeks have been really odd and not as high scoring as I've expected them to be.
Absolutely. Well, certainly not for us. Some other people have. I know Matthew's looking at you saying, what do you mean not high scoring? He's second on the log overall, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Matthew, anyway, great to have you in. And you are at the current rate of knots, you lying second. We're in the middle of the game week, of course, but congratulations to you. Gabriel is, of course, an old hat at this, but is this your first year of playing Fantasy Premier League?
It's actually my third year, but the first 2 years I kind of just played for fun. But this year I'm taking it a bit more serious, and
we can
obviously I'm doing well.
No, you're doing great. So he's been going 3 years, so he obviously started when he was 7.
Listen, guys, I'm going to pause a little bit. So we have just had someone invade our waiting room, so we're just going to let Devon on. Apparently, Devon, is it Devon or Devon?
Yes. Devon.
Devon. Okay, so Devon's related to Matthew, and I've just called her a pitch invader because we weren't expecting on the show.
Well, you know, in this game, the more the merrier. So while we get Devon on, I want to welcome Gabriel. How has Fantasy Premier League been treating you? You were up there, dropped down, but you're still in the mix.
Yeah, it's been very tight. It's quite fantastic as well. I'm particularly happy with mine and Keegan's combined team because we seem to be slowly climbing back up in the rankings, and our decisions are finally starting to work relatively well. And in terms of the combined teams, at the time, like right now, we are still in the middle of the game week, but at the moment it is extremely tight. So second is on 1,706, which is Matthew, total score. Third, which is Flo, 1,705. Fourth, which is myself, 1,703, and then Keegan on 1,700. And then right under Keegan at 6, it's 1,699. So those like 6 places is separated by like 6 points, which is just absolutely insane. But it's wonderful. It's great to see. And
sorry, am I chopped liver? Do I not even get a mention? Am I too far down?
You're not even top 20.
Well, yeah.
The dismissiveness. Matthew, this is what happens when you get old. People just put you out to retirement.
I literally had an interesting conversation with Dino the other day. Well, when he was sitting in top spot after he dethroned me, and he said, don't worry, the self-sabotage is going to come in quite soon. And it seems that is exactly what has happened.
This is what's happening.
Where is Dino now?
26. He's number 6.
But it's hard. It's difficult to. But I want to talk to Matthew about, because I mean, you've only played it 3 times and you're taking it seriously now. But for obviously a young man, you've got a feel for it. You are, as we've seen at the back, a Manchester United fan, which means Gabriel will love you on the show. But have you put a lot of Manchester United players into your team? Obviously Fernandes, as they call him these days. But have you got other United players in there?
A few weeks ago, I had Van Bissaka for their double game week.
Yes.
But then we just can't keep a clean sheet. So I just took him out. And Fernandes is really the only one that's consistent. So I just kept him. But right now, we're not playing too well. So I'm thinking of taking him out.
Yeah.
He's becoming a Manchester United talisman in terms of he's usually there to start. And in terms of FPL, he garners a lot of points. So a lot of people, have him and captain him. I've done that quite a couple of times, and it's done well for me.
But Matthew's right, isn't he? He's gone off the boil a bit, Gabriel. And I don't know if it's not necessarily his fault. The side, I mean, last night we saw them struggling to score away at Crystal Palace, which is not a great result. But so it's very difficult I felt, for him to continuously sustain that team. I mean, he's carried them right the way through. I mean, he eventually is human, so he's going to come back at some point in time to his field.
For sure, he's definitely going to get back to it, but there's a lot of mitigating factors which contributes to that. So not to get too technical, but Manchester United are missing Pogba, or a player like Pogba, somebody who can control the midfield and get the ball from the defense to the higher ends of the midfield where Bruno plays. Now Bruno is running up and down, defending, doing other things that he shouldn't be doing. And come the time where they need him to produce up front, he's at the back doing who knows what. And also some of the tactics that the managers instilled, like the game against Chelsea, where he'll play the two centre backs in Lindelof and Maguire, and he'll play two holding midfielders just in front of the centre backs. So there's a huge hole in the midfield, and either Bruno has to come back to receive the ball, or nobody's going to get the ball to him, which makes it difficult. So until something like that changes, then Bruno Fernandes might not be the right asset to have at this present time for Man United. You'd be looking maybe at the defenders, because they are capable of keeping clean sheets as they have in the past 3 or so matches. But going forward, even moments of magic like he has been producing, they're going to come very few in comparison to before.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, when you talk about assets to have, there is one asset that's been extremely confusing for me, and that's Mohamed Salah. I mean, he is the top, statistically, he is the top scorer at the moment in the season, but I don't feel that it's something that he's going to maintain. What are your thoughts, Matthew?
I actually took him out this game week for Harvey Barnes, which turned out horrible. But I don't think, like, he's sustaining the goal scoring, but performance and how Liverpool are playing, I don't trust him right now. And I just feel there's better assets to have, especially with De Bruyne coming back from injury. I feel like he'll be a good option to have now. So I just feel there's better options right now.
Could it possibly be also because of how Liverpool as a team is playing, especially since the exit or the injury of Virgil van Dijk?
Well, where do we start? I mean, they've just had injury upon injury upon injury. And it's difficult for any team to operate in that set of circumstances. But something's not quite right there, Matthew. I know you're a Manchester United fan, so you're probably pleased with Liverpool's fall from grace. But for them to have gone from something close to near perfection last year to where they are now, something's not right there.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Mohamed Salah and where he is, he's only two goals away from Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes is on 15 goals, and Mohamed Salah is on 17 goals. And I don't think that is his usual record. I mean, he was usually quite ahead at this stage, Gabriel.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely the way that Liverpool are playing. So Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane, they play in such a way where Firmino can drop a little bit in the midfield, play false nine, and then they run in behind the defenders, and they can go sort of into the box where Robertson and Trent Alexander are able to find him, because they also push quite high up. But without Henderson in the midfield, or without somebody like Fabinho who's able to cover the wide players in Robertson and Trent Alexander, they don't push up so much, and it forces Mane and Salah to stay wider than they usually do. And because of that, they're just not able to convert, because they're not in the box as much as they are, or they're not receiving the service that they're usually receiving, and they're playing a lot slower, a lot more lethargic, and it's just more difficult for Liverpool to score goals like that, because that's not their style of play.
I want to ask Matthew if he's got any Tottenham players. Two Tottenham fans are asking you this, because we don't have any. Actually, I think Chloe may have Son.
Yeah, he's got Harry Kane, I think.
Have you got Harry?
I actually triple captained him this week.
Yep.
So he got the goal, but I'm not sure about how the score is now, but I know Ali scored and Song assisted, so I got Song also. So I'm not doing too bad, I just want Kane to score.
Yeah, you're hoping that they score. Well, we're actually doing that game. We're doing this while that game is on.
Yeah. What I would like to obviously know is with regards to the Manchester Derby this weekend. By the way, we are having a live stream of that. The other half of the Stretford Tinkerers will be on that show, so I'm quite looking forward to that on Sunday.
Yeah, but Gabriel will probably be a pitch invader as well.
Don't rule it out.
But what I was saying is, in terms of Manchester City's form, do you think Manchester United should be worried? I think they should be.
Our away form is very good, but this is Man City, so I'm not quite sure. But I'm a bit optimistic about it because in the big games we don't usually lose, but we don't win either. So I'm not too sure, but that's why I want to take out Fernandes because of how good City are defensively. So I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm a bit worried about the game.
Well, statistically, I mean, Manchester City has had the most passes, the most goals in the season. Kevin De Bruyne has given us the most assists. So, and I think he's going to be in the squad this.
Well, he might be, but I mean, talk
Stop.
about changing teams, and I think this has been the success of Manchester City this year. Is that the truth of the matter is they started a bit slowly, but probably in the last 20, 25 games, he can change 6, 7 players, Gabriel, and it makes no difference. They're maybe not as prolific as they've been in front of goals because they play with a false nine. They don't really play with Aguero, and obviously being injured, and Jesus hasn't been there. Jesus hasn't been playing either, but they don't need him. I mean, they've got. In fact, I spoke about this on Premier League TV on whenever that was early on this week, Wednesday, saying that off the top of my head, I think they've had 5, maybe 6 players that have scored 11 goals or more. So they can score anywhere. And last week when they beat West Ham, Ruben Diaz and John Stones scored the 2 goals. So they don't need a Kane or a Rashford to be firing. And they can take, as you mentioned, Sterling out of the side. It makes no difference at all, Gabriel.
Well, it makes every
Not at
difference
all.
to my FPL team.
Well, I actually said that on the show. I said Pep Guardiola's team is a nightmare for Premier League. The other day, I had 3 Manchester City players, and they were all benched. Not one of them played. Cancelo didn't play. He rested Foden. And there was somebody else didn't play.
It was probably Gundogan that game because I also have 3 Man City assets, and I think it was Stones and Gundogan that didn't play that game, and it was just Diaz that was there. And speaking of Man City and how they don't need, and it's incredible the fact that, like you say, they're not as prolific in front of goal, but they're still the top goal scorers in the league, which is unbelievable. And perhaps last season. I think that Man City last season perhaps played better than they are this season, but right now they're just solid at the back. It doesn't seem like they're going to lose a match because of how strong their defenders are. And they have 3 of, well, if not 2 of the best defenders in the league. And John Stones is playing like one of the best defenders in the league. I think that Laporte is fantastic. He's not a starter at the moment, but he can come in and slots, and it's just he's incredible as a defender as well. Just a couple of years back, he was one of the most important pieces in Manchester City's title-winning season. So the team is just scary. I don't see Manchester United getting results at all. Especially considering against the so-called top 6, I don't think Man United has won a game. They lost against Spurs, that 6-1 thrashing that they had earlier on in the season.
Sorry,
they lost
I
against.
Forgot that. What was the score?
oh goodness, I can't recall anymore. But they lost. So there was that terrible score. They lost against Arsenal. And the rest of the games have been draws, which is just not good enough. And it's because of the negative way that Man United play against the big teams, trying to rely on counter-attacks. But against Manchester City, they've got fast defenders. They've got solid defenders. I don't think that's going to be enough either.
That's exactly it. And I was going to talk about, the playing attitude. I mean, if you look at how Man City play, they play to win. They've got a winning attitude. And they take each game very seriously. I think that Pep's done really well this season in terms of the culture of the team. But what I wanted to ask you, Matthew, what are your plans in terms of game week 27? Because we don't have a lot of time. We've got one day before we have to change everything.
Oh, this is the first time my wife's informed me of the gap between one game week and the next, because I have to tell you all that I was in Cape Town on the weekend and I got this message saying, have you changed your team? And I said, no. And then I suddenly thought, geez, I better change it. So I said, what time does it change? As you said, 1300 hours. I looked at my phone, it said 1306.
Oh, goodness.
There?
No, but what I'm also realizing is that I've left the lipstick filter on, so you look like you've got pink lips.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I look like David Bowie in his heyday, or Boy George. Come. Oh no, I look normal now.
Yeah, I've just switched it off. Sorry.
You had that then? I didn't know that. They were lipstick.
Yes, sir. You know, like
it's very sexist because us men don't get any lipstick or rouge elements.
But seriously, let's give Matthew a chance to tell us what he's doing with his team.
My first thought when the game week started was to take Foden out, even though he has a double game week. But because of Harvey Barnes' injury, I'm probably certain I'm going to take him out. But I was definitely going to take Foden out for De Bruyne and take out Bruno also for a -4. But I can't have an injured player with so much games coming up.
Yeah.
Is it another double game week?
Yeah,
Only
well,
City have
for
one.
Man City and Southampton.
Yeah.
They're the only two teams with double game week. Yeah.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, and there's one day between we're starting all over again.
Yes.
Well, I have to tell you, I've dropped so far off the pace. And I'm glad someone like Matthew, sitting second, had a disaster with Barnes, because with Harvey Barnes, because I felt like I had a period of 3 weeks where every single time I went for somebody, they played for 20 minutes and then pulled up an injury. It's not really football related, but I want to ask Matthew how he feels as a young guy watching football with VAR. Are you a fan of VAR? Do you find it interesting the way it's analyzed, or do you find it frustrating?
I find it very frustrating, especially like while you mentioned that, I was thinking of the Chelsea game with Callum Hudson-Odoi, that penalty, which I think should have been a penalty, but it wasn't. And it's a bit of uncertainty in the game also, especially when the team scores a goal. Then you kind of can't celebrate to the fullest because you don't know if they're chicken or not. And I just don't like it.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up perfectly, Gabriel. I've worked out, I mean, now I don't get excited when a goal goes in because, you know, your expectations have been raised on so many occasions and then it's been ruled out. So actually, it's a strange thing. I don't think it's really helping fans because you don't celebrate until the referee says, okay, it's a goal. But then by then, there's no point in celebrating. I feel like it's taken the edge off the live element of football, and particularly scoring of goals.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time what it does is that it disadvantages the smaller clubs. There's an element of bias that I'm picking up.
Really?
Yeah, and I feel that the smaller clubs are often disadvantaged.
Are you classifying Spurs as a smaller club?
I'm not sure about Spurs. I mean, I'm talking about your leagues, right. And they often get like the raw end of that.
It's terrible. I think that, look, VAR is it's a fantastic idea. Let's put it that way. It's a fantastic idea, but the implementation, it's horrible. And I think for me, what bugs me the most is that it was introduced as something to point out the clear and obvious errors.
Right.
And once you start using lines to see if somebody's offside, then that can't be considered clear and obvious anymore. It used to be give the benefit of the doubt to the attacker. If you're in line, then you're onside. But this thing of having lines, and it just takes me back to, it's happened now a couple of times with Leeds, but it takes me back to the one goal that Patrick Bamford had scored, where his arm, he points out his arm like this, And that's what they said made him offside, which made absolutely no sense. Because if you look at the rest of his body, he's behind the defender. And with things like that, it spoils the game. And I think that needs to be changed. Yeah.
That was anti-football, because you want goals to be scored, and there was nothing wrong with that. And had he been 2 centimeters the other way, it wouldn't have changed the skill level. It wouldn't have changed the way the side defended. And I just thought that football was the loser in that situation. And I'm afraid to say that many decisions are going that way, that it's actually not helping football and it's not helping the supporter.
And that for me is where the shame comes in, because even with VAR, at the end of the day, there is a person behind the monitor who's making a subjective, opinion around it. And I don't know to what extent referees are actually friends, So if my friend is refereeing a game and I'm VAR, if he says, no, we're going to disallow this, am I going to counter my friend? And am I going to say to my friend, no, you're wrong?
So
do you get what I'm saying? Or am I going to just stick with it? Like that Dermot guy is always on the referee's side.
Dermot.
It's like, Dermot, like, are you blind? Or do you just not have a backbone?
Dermot is a walking, clear and obvious error. So, I mean, but the thing is with him, listen, I don't blame him altogether, because I'm sure his paycheck comes via that route. So, he's in a situation where perhaps he doesn't bite the hand that feeds.
But that's the problem. When your decisions are based on your stomach, then it's an issue.
Also, I just wanted to say, like, I think we should hear what the referees are saying when they're making a decision. So that we can also know what's happening.
That's such a valid point.
Yeah.
That is such a valid point. I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
And just like how players and coaches have interviews afterwards, I think that it shouldn't be too much of a stretch to interview perhaps the referee, because it almost seems like they're just too protected. They make a decision on the field and it goes, and even if there is something later on where the referee's decisions are called into action, there's absolutely no way of knowing how it came to be, or there's just no there's no consequences for any mistakes that referees make.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I've got 2 more questions. One I want to ask Matthew, the other one I want to ask Gabriel. I might work in a question for you, wife, as well. But I'm going to start with a question with Matthew, and it's actually a question at the other end of the table. I want to know from you whether you think Fulham, I know they're losing as we were on air tonight against Tottenham, but do you think that they can catch a Burnley, or probably not Burnley, but could they catch a Newcastle or a Brighton? Do you think that Fulham will also get relegated with what looks like probably Sheffield United and West Brom?
I think it's doable, given now Newcastle and Brighton just can't seem to score, but Fulham also can't seem to score. But their defense is being good recently, but I just think it's a bit too much for Fulham. I don't think they have enough cutting edge up front to score goals. So I think they'll go down.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, because Scott Parker sort of turned everything on its head and given himself a chance. But I think you're probably right. They're going to need Brighton and Newcastle to have it all fall down. But I mean, if you were a Brighton and Newcastle fan, you'd be worried.
No, absolutely. Because I was about to say, there's still quite a few more games. The season is not over, and anything can happen.
Yeah.
I've got one more question, but you can carry on.
I'm waiting for your
question. My last question.
Yeah.
Well, so my last question, now I go to the top of the table. And we all know Manchester City are going to
probably win it.
Well, no, they're not only going to win it, they're going to bolt home by a mile, especially after they beat your team, guys, in the Manchester derby on the weekend, which is another 3 points. So let's leave. I think fair play. We all think Manchester City won it and they deserve to win it. But after that, the Champions League positions are fascinating. Leicester are doing their disappearing act again, not for the first time. Very worrying if you're a Leicester fan.
Yeah.
Converse to that, West Ham have just been unbelievable.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, do you think that David Moyes can continue to grind out points, get a few draws, win a few games, and incredibly finish in the top 4 if sides like Arsenal, Spurs, Leicester continue to struggle, and Everton, who can have their off days? What do you think, Gabriel?
I don't think they can make it. I think West Ham have been they've done a fantastic job. They're overachieving. That's what I was looking for. They're definitely overachieving, and despite the period that David Moyes had at Manchester United, he's actually a decent manager. He's quite a good manager, as was seen at Everton. What he needs is he's a manager that needs some time, and he needs a certain type of player, specific set of players who can do what he would like them to do. And we can see that West Ham are currently doing that. But what's going to edge perhaps a Chelsea or a Liverpool above them, if I need to say Liverpool because of their injuries, but is the depth in the squad. So West Ham do have some decent players that don't necessarily start, like your Manuel Lanzini, who finds himself often on the bench. You've got the club captain in Mark Noble, who's also on the bench quite often. But that experience of taking it over the line, we've seen that with clubs like Leicester, Chelsea, Liverpool, even Tottenham, but we haven't quite seen it with West Ham. So perhaps their mentality, while they get towards that point, might be their downfall. And with David Moyes not necessarily being a Champions League manager either, or Champions League position manager, perhaps he also might sort of not know how to get his team above the line in terms of that aspect versus a Leicester, versus a Liverpool, versus a Manchester United.
I don't know, Gabriel. I'm not sure I 100% agree. I'm not sure if it is his goal to get into Champions League, number one. And if it, if it isn't, I think there's a strong possibility that he could contend for it if Chelsea, Everton, Liverpool, and Tottenham continue to play the way that they are playing. And right now, I don't see, that burning desire to turn it around from any one of those teams at this stage. I don't see it. So they might get in just by fluke, because the other teams are not doing so well.
Which is possible. It's definitely possible. Just it's very unlikely it doesn't seem.
It would be like a great underdog story,
It'd be a bit like when Leicester won. But there's no doubt Antonio's had a great season. Declan Rice has stood up. But
Lingard as well.
Lingard, since he's arrived, has made a difference. But Souček for me and Ufal, those two players have really played well. Fabianski, when he was fit, and is pretty good. And I agree with Gabriel, they've got them pretty balanced. What about a prediction for Manchester United away at Manchester City on the weekend? We're going to put Matthew on the spot because I know his brain's telling him that Manchester City will win the game, but he won't be able to verbalize that. He's got to actually give Manchester United a chance. Matthew, what did you think of the scoreline for the weekend? Will there be goals? Because as you both alluded to, Ole's form is to try and get 0-0 draws in these matches.
That's exactly what I was going to predict. A 0-0. Definitely. He's going to park the bus and then counter-attack. But City's defense is too good, so I just think it will be a 0-0. If not, then City will thrash us and confront us.
Yes. Gabriel, can it be 0-0? I mean, and as a United fan, is it frustrating to see all these negative performances?
It's terribly frustrating, especially considering the caliber of players that we have. You want to see them attack. You want to see them, run between the lines, run behind the defenders, whatever it is. But I think the game will finish 3-1, simply because Man United versus Man City, the mentality is different for the players. But in terms of the tactical aspect, we saw Man City against Wolves. So it was 1-1 until the 80th minute. But Man City do find a way. And I think as well as our defense can play, or as well as Ole will set up for defending, I think that Man City will find a way through that defense, and the game will end up 3-1.
I'm going to read a tweet from a Manchester United fan. He's actually a friend of mine, FIFA, and he says, "Last night I fell asleep watching United. Get it fixed. Something is wrong. We're failing like a brick." And he is like a diehard. And for fans, I think it's very disappointing. I mean, we fall asleep in Spurs games all the time, and it's okay. But when you've got like Manchester United play, and people are falling asleep, it's disappointing.
It is disappointing, but I think you also have to credit Roy Hodgson. He's the oldest manager in the league. He's very dour and he's very shrewd. He doesn't give too much away. They don't concede a lot of goals. And I say this because I actually didn't think there'd be a lot of goals. So, you got this bet, which is a soccer 4. I shouldn't be telling Matthew about betting. I'm sure he's got enough cousins and relatives that are punting on horses. Comes from that kind of a family with Graham, etc. But so there's a bet where you can actually pick the result. And I put in the no score draw because I just thought, United, they can have ineffectual matches, and Crystal Palace did shut them down. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind Palace deserved the point.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my wife is going to end off to remind everybody, including me, when this new game week starts, so that I don't get a message 6 minutes after it's closed.
So the game week starts in 1 day, 15 hours and 53 minutes.
Wonderful.
That's when it closes. That is the deadline.
Okay.
So you're fit to get your team ready on time.
Okay.
Anyway, guys, just wanted to thank you very, very much, Matthew, for being on. I know it's a school night. I know you're going to school tomorrow, so I appreciate the effort. Please also pass my regards to your parents and thank yous for them to allow you to be on the show. But don't forget, everyone, that we do have a live stream on our YouTube channel, Cafe Bear.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun because I find Gabriel, and I hope Keegan doesn't mind me saying so, I find Gabriel actually quite a, if I can call him a sensible Manchester United fan, because every time I talk to him, he's a United fan, but he has he's a realist.
Right.
Keegan, I think sometimes, when I said to him, hey, Keegan, what do you think about your coach, Ole? No, he's the guy. And I'm thinking, no, dude. So I think with a live game, Keegan, we might see some raw emotions coming out there and we can actually witness some frustration.
Definitely.
I think
it will be on display.
I think there will be a bit of that. But other than that, please join us for the live stream. We will put the links up on our socials. Please make sure, Matthew, that you are on there. I want to see and hear your whole family screaming and shouting and sending us comments as to how wonderfully we'll be doing on that day. Hey, Neil Andrews.
Yes, absolutely. And we've got their predictions already. So I'll check what price a 0-0 draw is and what a 3-1. I think that Gabriel might be pretty accurate 3-1 because at the end of the day, they are still the noisy neighbours. So there's no love lost there.
True.
Maybe there's a red card in store. If we see a bit of passion from Manchester United, maybe we'll see a red card or two.
Passion would be really great. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. And a Man United win as well. I'd love to see that too.
Wow.
Thank you, guys.
But anyway, just thank you guys for being on the show, guys. Please continue to follow us on our socials, subscribe, tweet, and like. And we will see you again next week for another Fantasy Premier League.
Absolutely.
show.
And next time you're on, just go down to beyond the top 20, beyond the top 30s, down into the 40s, where you'll see my name.
Have a great evening, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.